So before he went there, the Israeli press, I think it was the Jerusalem Post, published a story saying that he was going to recognize a Palestinian state during his visit. A lot of people got excited about that. I felt that it was obviously not true, and that it was probably published. Either the Jerusalem Post just took it upon themselves to publish it, or they had some kind of a leak or some kind of a rumor that they heard about that, which was leaked for the purpose of putting pressure on Netanyahu. So, I mean, a few things about this. A lot of people were commenting on the fact that this is like a big "I told you so" moment for Middle Nation and for my content, in that it signals the extent to which America is potentially moving away from Israel, because he did a big Middle East trip without going to Israel. His first trip internationally is to Saudi Arabia, to UAE, and to Qatar. I've said all along that he's a Khaliji president, and this sort of shows that he's a Khaliji president. He has also cut off, reportedly, has cut off communication with Netanyahu. We're seeing more and more like op-ed pieces and commentaries in the mainstream American Western media saying basically the message is that this government is not Israeli government is not an American ally. And others talking about, for example, I think it was the Financial Times published one saying that Western silence on Gaza is contemptible and has to end. So there's been signals of what I have been talking about for 2 years now, that America would inevitably and has been trying to cut ties and find a way to cut ties with Israel, and that they're trying to find a way to get rid of Netanyahu, and that Trump is on board with the regional plan that I've talked about many times, the A National OCGFC plan for the region, that is in line with bin Salman's plan for the region, vision for the region, which is, as the most concise way to put it is the way that bin Salman himself put it, which is to say that it's going to be the new Europe. That the Middle East will be the new Europe. So he envisions, bin Salman has talked about his country being developed, obviously the UAE. He has also mentioned Iran being developed, Lebanon, Syria, and so forth. And I have said that this also includes Gaza, it includes Palestine, it includes Israel as an integrated, absorbed entity into that regional plan. Because the A National OCGFC want to see conflicts end. And, you know, obviously a lot of what I've talked about has come to pass. I said that all of the militant groups, the proxy militias and so forth, were going to have to be eliminated. They would be cut off and they would be eliminated. Iran has done that with Hezbollah. Hamas has gotten some degree of that from Qatar. The Ikhwan have gotten it from Qatar and from the UAE, from Turkey, to one extent or another. Iran has, to some extent, also done that with the Houthis, but the Houthis are a different sort of entity in that they are, it's a different branch, first of all, of the Shia. They're Arab, they're Yemeni, and they have, their situation is now sort of under the auspices of Saudi Arabia and what Saudi Arabia wants to have happen. So anyway, it looked like it looked like sort of the climax of "I told you so" moments happening over the course of Trump's trip. I did not believe, as I say, that he was going to announce the recognition of a Palestinian state, or the establishment of. He did lift sanctions on Syria, which was to be completely expected, because as everyone should know from watching my content, the installation of Sharaa as the president of Syria didn't happen by a revolution. It happened by a consensus of the regional powers. It happened by a consensus of Turkey, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Iran, and Russia, and the National OCGFC. So everyone wants to invest in Syria. You can't do that when there's sanctions. So everybody wants to invest in Syria. So the lifting of the sanctions is for that reason. Now, then there's the fact that Saudi Arabia allegedly, I mean, reportedly has pledged $600 billion investment in America. If you kind of drill down on that, the actual projects that exist where that money is going to go, the numbers don't add up to 600 billion or even close to that. And most of that money has to do with the defense deal that America agreed.
Now, let us watch this video of fearless Shaheed Bolsen talking about or delving on the visit of Donald Trump in the Middle East that was recently, and seeing how he feels about this visit. Let's watch and make a reaction in the end.
And then the other greater portion of that money goes to is Saudi Arabia basically hiring American companies to provide goods and services to Saudi Arabia. It's not really for developing America, infrastructure projects in America. Some of it is for data centers and things like this, but most of it is going to development in Saudi Arabia. I haven't looked into the deal that was made between UAE and America, which is supposed to be $1 trillion or over $1 trillion. Obviously, I think the UAE one they said is over a 10-year period. The Saudi one is obviously also going to be over a period of time, not defined as far as I know. And Qatar also is like close to $1 trillion. Obviously, will also be over a certain period of time. But these are also should be understood as sort of pledges that give Trump something to talk about, because back in, I don't know if it was 2017 or when it was exactly, when he announced a similar number, like $400 billion, I think he announced, of Saudi investment in America back when he was president the first time, and less than 100 million of that actually materialized by the end of by now. Between then and now, only less than 100 million of that actually materialized. So these are numbers. These are just numbers. And as someone said in the chat, this is sort of maybe a maximum estimate of what the projects might cost, as opposed to what's actually going to be used. But anyway, so there's now also a spin on that, which is that from the Ikhwan, from the Muslim Brotherhood, basically types, that the Gulf leaders are rewarding Trump for the genocide in Gaza and just giving him money and rewarding him, which is, the typical way that they would view that. Obviously, all of this is soft power. Obviously, all of this represents soft power by the Gulf, financial power, economic power. I can't say that I'm particularly satisfied with the result of this, the outcome of this, or that I'm satisfied with what I know about these agreements and what I know about these deals, which is not, I don't know anything more than what anyone else knows about them. I'm sure there are people who know more about it. That's even publicly available information that I haven't seen yet. But from the publicly available information that I've seen, I'm not particularly happy with this, or satisfied rather, because, for example, it includes also $80 billion coming into Saudi Arabia, investment by Google, Oracle, and Uber. I understand the logic of doing these deals and gaining economic leverage, and to a certain extent, this is almost it can be a kind of a payoff money to keep America at bay, because America's main leverage tool that they have for gaining any relevance in the region at this point is their ability to disrupt, their ability to destabilize, their ability to spoil everyone's plans. So you kind of want to pay them off for them to not do that. Obviously, I'm not privy to all of the sort of insider information, but it seems to me that you don't have to fear them that much anymore, that you need to do all of this. And you have already significant financial economic leverage over the U.S. And I don't know if you really need to do all of this, and I'm not really seeing you utilizing the leverage that you have. But again, there's. I know that, like, for example, the meeting that he had in Qatar was supposed to be quite short, and it ended up being about 3 times longer than it was expected to be. So you can assume that there were a lot of things being discussed there that no one is ever going to know about.
Right.
All of which will probably pertain to Gaza. While he was in that meeting, it was reported, while he was in that meeting, I mean, it was reported that this happened. We all know that this happened. Israel bombed a hospital and killed dozens and dozens of people. But that actually coincided with his meeting in Qatar. It took place while he was having the meeting. And at the meeting, they were expecting to announce a hostage release deal, which then, because of what Israel did, they called it off. And I think that Trump can't possibly be pleased about that, because he likes being able to make big announcements and show progress being made. So I don't think that there's any question that the relationship between Trump and Netanyahu is terrible, and always actually has been terrible, despite what everyone wants to think. He can't stand the man. I don't know if there's anyone who can, but I don't think Trump can stand him specifically. And I think that most likely, as I actually tweeted about it, I think that in all of the meetings, including the meeting in Qatar, there is no discussion about trying to get Trump on board with the regional plan. He's obviously on board with the regional plan. That's why he has the job that he has, because he's the one to do that. But they're talking logistically of how. And the how here basically has to do with how to get rid of Netanyahu. Now, for all of us on the outside, it looks like it should be extremely easy. Why can't you get rid of this man? You literally overthrow governments all the time. This isn't a new thing for you. You know how to do this. So it's difficult for any of us to understand why this monster is allowed to continue. And he has, I mean, there are at least, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 different ways that you could envision him being removed from office. Obviously, the most satisfying one for any of us would be, well, I won't say that one. What would be the most satisfying way? But the most satisfying legal way would be for him to just literally send in the Navy SEALs or something and grab him and turn him over to the ICC. Obviously, that's never going to happen. But he has the legal cases, and he could be convicted and removed from office on the basis of the legal cases, and then go to jail within Israel. Yeah, the legal cases in Israel. Be removed from office and be put in jail in Israel, which would, spare him from being sent to the ICC. They could be trying to make a deal with him for asylum of some sort, potentially Azerbaijan, to send him to Azerbaijan or somewhere. I think it would be difficult. I don't think he would be safe if he went to America, to be honest. His cabinet can fall apart, and he will lose, and then they have to have elections. So, then also obviously the intelligence and the military themselves could cease cooperating with him and completely isolate him and block him, potentially functionally overthrowing him. Also highly unlikely. Not impossible, but unlikely. So I think that they're probably trying to work out the details of how to get rid of him. I don't think anybody wants him there now. But then I just saw a statement by Trump saying, still after this meeting, after all of these meetings in the Gulf, still talking about America should take Gaza and turn it into a freedom zone, or some words to this effect. So he hasn't actually changed his rhetoric after all of these meetings, which is a failure, in my view, on the part of the Gulf governments. I know that you were talking to him about Gaza. I know that you were talking to him about a Palestinian state. I know that you're talking to him about at least recognition of a Palestinian state in the United Nations. And I know that you were talking to him about the Arab peace plan and normalization with Israel by Saudi Arabia coming on the condition of the establishment of a Palestinian state, or at least the establishment of a reliable, irreversible track towards a Palestinian state. I still think all of those things will happen. But I'm frankly not satisfied with the extent of the pressure that you're putting. And you are insisting upon a sort of a carrot approach rather than a stick approach. And I think that I have always understood that approach. I don't know to what extent you still need to do that, but that's literally I don't know. They know better what the situation is, what all of the circumstances are, what complicated issues there are that I'm not privy to. But I don't think that I will say that it is certainly progressing as I have talked about, which is that Israel is being essentially surrounded by a Gulf stewarded sphere of influence, and it will be absorbed at a certain point. And I think that they're not, from a very sort of cold-blooded, unemotional point of view, all of the destruction that's taking place is a reconstruction opportunity, and it only increases the weakness of Israel. It further undermines their own bargaining position, their own legitimacy, obviously, and their own neediness. And it's important to remember that Trump's approach to the world, and Trump's approach to politics, and Trump's approach to diplomacy is entirely 100% transactional. In that scenario, Israel has nothing to offer Trump. They have nothing to transact, except for, we can ruin your plans. Netanyahu has said, maybe we need to start weaning ourselves off of America's, our dependence on America. Okay, but this is true. This is true, and I think that they want him to get that signal, because you're going to need a new daddy, and that daddy is in Riyadh and in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi. It's obviously it's gut-wrenching and it's nauseating to think about any sort of normalizing of Israel, but that's not understanding it properly, because what is actually happening is that Israel is getting weaker and weaker, and it is being gradually, incrementally abandoned by its 80-year sponsor, and it will be absorbed, it will be acquired, it will become an asset of the GCC. And this is one of the reasons why I'm not that comfortable with also some of the deals, because I would really prefer that you're not doing these deals with America. I understand making investment in America, FDI into America, as a way of, as I've described it many times, FDI is a syringe that extracts more than it pumps in. So, like for example, if you're talking about $1.4 trillion investment, you're going to get back from that close to $2 trillion of American money that's now funneling out of that country. So it's a reversal in the historical flow of wealth. It's flowing back out from the so-called global north into the global south. It's flowing out from America, flowing out from the west into the Middle East, into the Gulf, which is nice. But like I said, a lot of these deals are actually for the development of Saudi Arabia, and I would rather American companies not be involved in that. You have Chinese companies, there are Russians, you have Turkish companies. There are many other options, but like I said, they're doing trade-offs, and they're in a minefield, having to navigate the minefield.
They need to keep the dogs on the leash,
Yeah.
This could be the way they know how to keep dogs, wild dogs, on a leash.
But you really have to understand how dangerous it is for you.
Yes.
And I know that they're much smarter than me, and they know what they're doing. Clearly, they're extremely cunning, extremely savvy, and I'm sure that they know what they're doing. But this is where I have some sympathy for people who say they don't trust the Gulf leaders. And for me, it's not a matter of I think that they have bad intentions. It's that I don't think that they are primarily driven by moral intentions. And it's actually very important in this day and age, in this transition period, for your moral, your principled, your convictions to actually be at the forefront of your decision making. And I think that that's very much shown by Ibrahim Traore. For one thing, you will have all your people behind you. And for another thing, you won't be in as much danger of being co-opted by extremely diabolical institutions from the West that will find their way into your security and intelligence apparatus, into your infrastructure development and so forth, into controlling your smart cities and what that you want to build. You don't need them anywhere near that. It's not a good idea. You're doing it for reasons that I understand, but I hope you also understand the risks, and I hope that you are putting in your agreements, in the contractual agreements that you're making with them, sufficient protections, and to also ensure that there is transfer of technology, transfer of knowledge, and so forth for your own people. You don't want to now become dependent upon these companies, upon these American Western companies. So there's positives and negatives in my view from this trip. Some of it is definitely I told you so moments, but there's also a good deal of it which is I'm not comfortable with. You have organized attempts against Ibrahim Traore. You organized an attempt against Erdogan. We know your history with that. And I don't doubt for a moment that you would like to be rid of Netanyahu. And I'm not even saying that you have to assassinate the man. But it's very difficult for anyone to believe that you can't remove him from power.
Yeah.
What are the complications there? I can't say that I understand it. All I can assume is that he is continuing to serve a function, and the only function that he is serving is to, maybe in your view, just like in my view, I feel like the Gulf has already done enough buttering up and greasing the palms of the West. In my opinion, you've done enough of that. You have already achieved sufficient autonomy to do what you want, that you don't actually have to do this anymore. But again, that's based on my own lack of any insider information.
Yeah.
But you clearly feel that that's not the case. You clearly feel that you still have to do this. And I assume that you must be correct in that because you have information I don't have. And so also, I can only assume the same in the converse of that continues to be true about Netanyahu, that he continues to serve a function, which is that Israel isn't weak enough yet.
Right.
That they haven't devastated their economy enough yet. They haven't lost global credibility enough yet. They haven't created enough opportunities for reconstruction yet. I don't know. I mean, this is also what I'm saying. We're dealing with people across the board for whom, in my opinion, their morals and their principles are not at the forefront of their thinking. It's there, but it's not at the forefront of their thinking. And I think that we are entering a time when it's going to become increasingly important for that to not be the case. You really do have to put your morality and your principles at the forefront. That doesn't mean don't be realistic politically. That doesn't mean, don't compromise and don't do trade-offs. But it should be, I think it should have a greater role in your decision making. Because also, I mean, the backlash, the optics, as they say, obviously it looks horrific that Israel is doing what they're doing while the financier of Israel, the sponsor of genocide, is entertained in Riyadh and in Abu Dhabi and in Doha. The optics of that are horrifically bad. It makes it very difficult, because now, in order for me to explain to anyone why it's not the way you think, I have to go into I have to launch a course on what investing means politically, the political ramifications and repercussions of investment. So it becomes a very complex thing to try to explain why it's actually not. It's why what's happening is actually the opposite of what you think. And okay, you can say it doesn't matter because the people who don't understand, but that's most of us. That's most people. That's most people in the Muslim world. That's most people in the Arab world. And that's most of the Muslims. That's most of 2 billion people don't understand these complexities. And what we see looks really bad. It looks really bad. And our opinion should matter more to you. I'm not saying it should be the only thing that matters to you, but it should matter more to you. If you want to be and you should want to be like Ibrahim Traore. You should want to be like Ibrahim Traore. That man is loved by his people because he loves his people. He loves his people and they love him, and they are a fortress for him. They are protection for him. And he's a protection for them. And that's the relationship that it should exist between the leaders and the people. Even though, okay, bin Salman is not the leader of the Muslims. Bin Zayed isn't the leader of the Muslims. But you could be. You could be. And that would be a lot better for you than thinking small and not caring about how we feel. You know? Again, I know it's a very complicated thing to explain, and you also might not want to necessarily disclose all of that. That's what you're doing. That what's happening is a silent takeover. It's a silent transfer of authority and power and sovereignty in the Middle East from the U.S. to the GCC, and the creation of a collective sovereignty between the GCC and Turkey, and to a certain extent, obviously, China and Russia. But, you know, explain it a little bit, at least. Explain it a little bit.
I'm inclined to have a little bit of sympathy, only because, like, in terms of media information that I'm interacting with, you know, I've been seeing Faisal's videos of old, you know.
Yeah.
He was out in the forefront, saying what he thinks, and what the populace thought and still thinks now, you know. But he was, you know what happened to him? I think it's.
But it was a different age. This is why I'm saying, in my opinion, you don't have to do this. You don't have to be as careful as you're being. But of course, again, I could be wrong. You know what I don't know. You have information that I don't have. But from what I can see, America is in an extremely weak position, and is very much interested in transferring authority in the Middle East to you. And the A National OCGFC absolutely have the entirety of the West in their pocket. And the A National OCGFC are on board with this plan. So I'm not sure why you still feel that you have to be so careful. But as I say, you might know more than I do. But it's overall dissatisfying to me, even though the last several days have been full of ITYS, I told you so moments. It's overall dissatisfying. I shouldn't say that. I should say I don't know the terms and conditions of these agreements. The terms and the conditions of the agreements, and all of the things that were said behind closed doors, that I'm sure at least 85-90% of what they talked about behind closed doors was about Gaza. But we have to see how it turns out. We have to see how it develops. I mean, we might see a vote that will see the United States not veto the recognition of a Palestinian state at the UN. And Saudi Arabia has never budged on their conditions for normalization. Syria apparently is talking about being open to normalization. I think that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be shocked, absolutely shocked, at the extent to which Iran is open to normalization. That will be coming soon. That will be inside of the Trump administration. A normalization deal with Iran. A lot of people are going to lose their minds over that. But anyone who knows how Iran operates politically won't be surprised.
Historically.
Yeah, historically. And by historically, we're talking centuries.
Yeah.
How they operate. I'm not even saying that as a criticism.
No, it's just the way
they're realistic. They're realistic and pragmatic. So there will be a normalization deal probably with Iran. But with Syria, Syria understands that all of this is going to be Gulf property. It doesn't make any sense for us to fight. We don't have the power to fight. And if we fought, we will lose more. So they have talked about being open to normalization.
Yeah, plus you've been rid of the plague of Assadists, the Shia element.
I mean, everyone should understand also, I've said it a million times, but you should understand that normalization with so-called Israel embeds Israel into... It makes Israel an absolute minority in a region of Muslims, of Arabs and Muslims, rather than it completely defangs them, because now how are you going to bomb Syria now if you have normalized relations? When's the last time they bombed Jordan? When's the last time they bombed Egypt? You know, if a national OCGFC investment starts to pour into Syria, UAE investment already is, Saudi Arabia investment already is, Syria will become untouchable. And not only will it be untouchable because there's no reason, if there's normalization, but also because the repercussions would be too great. Because Israel is going to become increasingly dependent upon Gulf money. So, I mean, there's nothing, you know, you have a knee-jerk reaction to the word normalization. But it's defanging of Israel. I don't expect them to portray it that way. But anyway, how they're going to get rid of Netanyahu, I don't know. But I don't think that Netanyahu is doing anything to secure his job. Everything that he's doing, every move that he's made, just since Trump came to office, is decreasing his job security. But it's just a question of how. I don't know why it's so difficult, to be honest. I really don't. But that's again because I don't know the extent to which you all, the people who are in power, the people who are making the decisions, have determined that he's still serving a useful function. But in terms of the idea of like that he's going that Trump is a Zionist and that they're going to take over Gaza, take over the West Bank, take over Syria, this is nonsense. Obviously, this is obvious nonsense. Again, going back to the deals, to the trade deals or the investment deals, we will probably never see what the terms and conditions are of these agreements. But you should at least be putting some terms and conditions in those agreements that protect you, protect your country, protect your workforce, protect your development, protect your society and protect your sovereignty from a lot of the risks that are there if you don't put the protections there. There's a lot of risks in dealing with these American companies. And BlackRock is not going to be on your side in that regard. That's why you have to be really careful, because your partner, your friend BlackRock, is going to try to gain power over you, not by armies and invasions, but by the terms and conditions that you put in contracts. That's how they will take over your country and take your sovereignty away, take your fledgling sovereignty away through the terms and conditions of contracts.
As we know, Shaheed Bolsen is one of the bold analysts or critics on things that doesn't go well across the globe, and how he talks, how he articulates his issues is admirable to many and to people who desire a better world and a free and just society. America is one of the threats that Shaheed Bolsen is highlighting in this video, because he's saying that Trump's visit to the Middle East wasn't in good faith. Trump had a mission, and the mission is to ensure that these areas remains under the control of America through its overtime and continuous militarization of different parts of the world. So Trump's visit isn't in good faith, and he is so much interested in the deals and dealings in the Middle East. We know that Middle East is one of the biggest producers of oil and even minerals. This is a bedrock of minerals that the US can't allow to be free, and he will do, mark this word, he will do even the little thing to ensure that these areas are disrupted if they want to develop. If they see any kind of increased developments in these areas, US will surely cause a disruption that will rather affect the growth of these areas. That is the message that Shaheed Bolsen is trying to bring across in this video. And as we always say, that a time has come when we have to fight for equality in the society. I'm a black, and that is always my aim, that people realize that even the blacks matter. Even the blacks have to be in the table for negotiation. They have to be seen as humans. Blacks are humans. That is the channel I urge you to make a subscription today, because it will help us give you more content that are more enlightening and giving you eye opener on the happenings across the globe. So do not also forget to like, share and comment. Thank you, and may God bless you. Let's meet when we bring another video.